In this Titan Quest II video, I'm going to be talking about my hands-on impressions having played Titan Quest II at Gamescom just a few days ago. And I am a huge fan of the Titan Quest franchise. I am so glad this game is finally getting a sequel. If you have been following our channel at all, you know that we've been covering Titan Quest. We have Titan Quest videos on our channel, even though this game is almost 20 years old. So I kind of want to get into what the game plays like, what I saw, what I thought of it. So let's get into that. So first of all, let's get into what Titan Quest is. Titan Quest is a hack and slash ARPG that came out in 2006. And the general concept of this game was that you are kind of playing through history of various regions of the world, beginning in Greece, going to Egypt, then to Asia, then to Olympus, and eventually in the first expansion, you went to the underworld, and then subsequent expansions have added more places to go. And the real draw to this franchise for me was just the settings and the characters from history. I really loved that, and I really love one of the core mechanics of the game, which is the Mastery system, which remains still intact in the second game. And Masteries, for all intents and purposes, are like skill trees that have a theme to them that you could choose from to kind of make your character. They had things like warfare or defense or nature or earth or storm, and you made your character by combining two of these skill trees. So you'd pick one, and then when you got to level 8, you'd pick a second one, and that would kind of make up the theme for your character. So you could mix and match, and that gave you a lot of flexibility in terms of the way you could play Titan Quest. In the gameplay you're seeing here, I'm playing Warfare Storm. That is the only combination that was available during the brief demo that I played, which is about 30 minutes long. So I wasn't able to pick and really take a look at what was available in there. And if you look at these skill trees or masteries in the gameplay, you'll see that they're not even close to being complete compared to the previous game. There's just enough there for you really to kind of get a feel for how the game plays. And if you look at my gameplay, you'll notice immediately that Ice Shards is a returning skill from the previous game. This is a very, very popular one, and I expect there to be, builds based around this skill again, just like there were in the first game. Love playing a Sharder build. The first thing that you might notice is now in the skill trees, you have what are called active skills, and then you have passive skills. These were also present in the skill trees and masteries of the first game, but they were kind of interwoven. They seem to be disconnected a little bit more here, which make things a little bit more clear, I think, for people. But essentially, every time you level up in the game, you get 3 active skill points, and you get 2 passive skill points to invest in your active skills and your passive skills. So for instance, just to use the Ice Shard example, because that's what I've been playing here, if you invest in Ice Shards with your active skill points, it's going to deal more damage, and eventually after enough points, it might even add projectile count to it. And then on the passive side, when you put skill points into passive skills, it's just going to improve the passive benefit of whatever that skill is. So it might give you energy, it might give you energy regeneration, might give you health, might give you damage, something like this. But something that's new in Titan Quest II is that as you invest more and more points into an active or a passive skill, you'll actually unlock these little shield slots below it that allow you to drop further passive modifiers into them that changes the properties of that skill. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Diablo 3 in the sense that you had these things that could completely change the way a skill performs, or perhaps it just slightly modify it by adding damage or maybe added status ailment buildup. But in some cases, it can add even more projectiles or change the properties of the skill. And as you level up that skill, you're going to be able to drop more and more of these passive modifiers in it, making it more and more powerful, not only because you added more points, but because you're adding more of this like extra little passive things into these shield slots. And if you look, you'll notice that not each passive is valued the same. They have a number of shield slots that they fill. So part of Titan Quest II's builds is going to be figuring out which passives to take and what's the most meta way to do that, essentially. And the same is also true with passive skills. You'll notice that they also have slots that, when unlocked, you can add passive benefits into them from this pool. And again, depends how good they are, how many you're going to be able to slot in there. So mixing and matching these, figuring out what's the best combination of not only active skills and the little passive modifiers that you can add to them, but also, which passive skill modifiers to add and which passive skills to take is going to determine your build along with your masteries, and then, of course, the gear that you get in the game. And what I really love about this system, along with the fact that you gain attribute points on top of the passive skill points and active skill points when you level up, is that it makes your level ups feel really, really important. Like, you sit there and you actually look at the screen and figure out what you can do with all these points that's going to give you a direct upgrade if you spend them properly. Because of you're calculating how many shield slots they're going to unlock. If you add that next passive modifier in there, what's that going to do for your build immediately? And kind of looking at what your options are gives you like a pause for a minute. You know, you take several minutes to figure out how you want to level up. And I feel like that is really special about Titan Quest 2. And early leveling in a lot of ARPGs is underwhelming. You get a skill point or some attribute points, and you don't really have to think too much about it. You already know where your next skill point is more or less going to go, and you level up, and then you're right back to it. But in Titan Quest 2, you actually get to spend some time thinking about it, and I feel like it makes the leveling experience of Titan Quest 2 more enjoyable, and I really enjoyed leveling a character in Titan Quest 1 for similar reasons, but I think it's even more improved in Titan Quest 2. And moving along to like the gear and stuff like that, you'll notice that gear has requirements, attribute requirements, still just like it did in the first game. And the qualities of gear that are there seem to be the same as the first game, meaning that you had like white loot, blue loot, gold loot, green loot. And I didn't find any unique items in my testing. I don't even know if they're in the demo yet. But I'm assuming that there will also be blue items that are unique, and then eventually purple items that are, you know, higher tier as well. So the itemization system seems to be pretty similar to the previous game. And, you know, unlike a lot of ARPGs, you're not getting tons and tons and tons of loot. Titan Quest 2 is a much slower experience. The combat scenarios that you're fighting, particularly early on, seem more challenging than the first game. You know, it's taking longer to kill enemies, even upgrading your character, and, you know, you're having to dodge out of their attacks. There is a dodge added to the game now, so now you can also dodge, which is nice. And it definitely felt more engaging than Titan Quest 1 in terms of combat mechanics. But one major change, and one that I'm really happy for, is the way potions are handled in the game. You now have a potion equipped in a health potion slot and a mana potion slot, and these can have passive effects, just like in Path of Exile. So looking for better ones of these will be part of the game. They'll be, you know, part of your loot pool. You won't see them all that often, but when you do, they can seriously improve your character. And what this has done is it's removed an inventory full of potion management, which, you know, is never the best part of a game for sure in one of these. And it's something that honestly I wish they had, you know, addressed more in the Diablo 2, you know, remake, because potion management is just not a fun part of a game. So now, at least in the demo, you had 2 health potions and 1 mana potion. I'm expecting the total amount you can carry to increase as you get better potions as the game progresses. But essentially, the way it works is that your mana potion will just replenish over time, and the health potions seem to replenish upon damaging enemies. So if you're like in a boss fight and you're attacking the boss repeatedly, you're going to replenish your health potion more quickly than if you're just running around and doing nothing. Whereas the mana potion will just regenerate over time. So maybe if you're trying to avoid a boss, wait for your, you know, mana potion to fully regenerate and pop it so you can cast more spells. You might not want to engage a boss. And playing so far, even with the very limited skills we had from Storm and from Warfare, you can see the synergies start to be there in combat. And, you know, playing a hybrid build like this is, you know, you can jump into combat with a leap ability and then hit an AoE frost ability that freezes everything. And then maybe if you got like an AoE blade skill that hit everything, you can see how this starts to add together. You can also modify your light attack as well to add certain effects. I think the modification of the light attack is based on what skill trees you have. I don't have any total confirmation of this yet because I haven't seen other skill trees. But for instance, I deal like frost buildup with my light attack in this build. So you're going to be able to, and there's even one that, you know, a passive modifier that makes it so you add more projectiles if you do a ranged attack. So if you equip a bow and you're attacking, you fire more projectiles. So there are things that can modify your attacks, even on your light attack with this system, and you can even upgrade your light attack. And level design wise, so far it reminds me very much of Titan Quest in terms of its aesthetics and its design. There does seem to be more verticality. You're going up and down ladders and up and down a bit more than the first game. So that's kind of nice to see, you know, a bit more verticality in terms of utilizing the 3-dimensional space of the game. We'll have to see how that is. But in the areas that I saw so far, they're beautiful, they're vibrant. I really enjoy, again, the background setting of the game, and I think they managed to capture this so far. So overall, Titan Quest 2 has got me really excited. It seems to have managed so far to capture the things that made Titan Quest great, and improve things that were kind of a nuisance in the game. I think that's awesome. And honestly, Titan Quest 2 is probably one of my favorite games I saw at Gamescom this year. Really, really excited for this game. From my understanding, I think there is going to be some sort of early access later this year, maybe. I didn't hear an exact date or anything like that, but I don't think it's going to be too much longer until we can get our hands on this game and play a lot more. I'm really, really excited for that. If you guys love build making, like I do, Titan Quest has such a huge variety of builds because of the combinations of masteries and the skills inside those masteries. And I think that's what really drew me to the game back then, on top of all the environments and things like that. So stay tuned for more Titan Quest 2 content. We're definitely going to be keeping a close eye on this game. And I want to know what you guys think, though. What do you make of the gameplay? This is obviously a very early demo of the game. It's not really flashy. I don't have a ton of skills or abilities yet. It's definitely a very early part of the game. Things are a bit slow, which I kind of like. But what do you guys think? Do you like what you see so far? Did you play Titan Quest 1? How do you think it compares to Titan Quest 2 based on what you see now and the information that you've been getting? Let me know in the comments below.